with everyone to get, common sense gun control is what he's always talking about. And, the problem with anything regarding Cuba, what said in a positive or even a negative, well, not a negative way, but said in a more positive way, there are a lot of Cuban immigrants in this country. Majority of them are in Florida, Miami.
Yeah.
Who are now Republicans just because of the fact that they listened back then in the 70s, in the 80s under Reagan, when Reagan was like, "You vote for Jimmy Carter. This is a vote for communism," and that really drove them away from the Democrats, and they've been voting conservative ever since. That because again they still run ads. They haven't stopped running ads, and this circumstance of Bernie saying, well, this is one positive thing. While yes, it is a sort of positive thing, people are going to misuse that and say, this guy's, supporting Cuba. No, I can't vote for him. And while Florida definitely is in a critical state to win, the fact of the matter is Wisconsin is going to be a hard state for a Democrat to win, and so is Ohio. Those two states are going to be hard. While Wisconsin was won by a Democrat governor, a lot of the polls are showing that it's going to be a tight race. And I, without a doubt, could see Trump really campaigning like hard like hell down in Florida and in Wisconsin, and possibly making it a really tough race for any Democrat to win, for that matter. I mean, Pennsylvania is an easy win for a Democrat without a doubt. Michigan, I would argue, is probably the same. But Florida really isn't a bad state for a Democrat to go for, because it still is a purple state. I mean, they had close elections there for a while. Obama won that state in 2008 and in 2012. So I don't really see any reason as to why a Democrat can't go down there, campaign really hard, and win that state, But I think that Bernie's not set up the best to do that, and that's the problem that I have. And do I think that's going to drive the election away? No, but he's going to polarize a lot of people with some of his campaign views, which is, I think, the other reason why I am hesitant in the sense of how much he can win by against Trump.
I mean, I feel like if he does a good enough answer, and I think he's had good responses on this so far. Like, he said what he said about this, and I don't think it's been that bad. Like, he's stuck to what his position is, and it's like, it's really what it is. It's pretty much an acknowledgement of the facts and like really the way things are with the situation, because the regime under Castro was obviously like really awful and really undemocratic and unfair, but they really have done a good job of, I think most specifically, healthcare and literacy for the poor. And if he, I think. I don't know how much that will come back to bite him, and because I get what you're saying, but this is like, I get the sense of like this is the race where like things like this, I don't know how much they stick, like we've seen so much made about so many different things, like for example the impeachment. We thought the impeachment would play a massive effect on the 2020 race. Like, I really don't think it is. I don't think it's going to play a big effect on this race, and if that doesn't stick, I don't know how much this is going to stick, because it's just something that really doesn't, like, I think people are going to, especially a group of people that Bernie Sanders already does have a lot of support with, Latinos, like, I think he'll do well there. And yeah, I just don't know how much it's going to stick. And I really also do square that with the kind of answer he gave and the explanation he gave, which was, it wasn't praising Castro because he was he was a really great guy. Like, he was a really friendly guy. But it was not the most outrageous thing to say, and also something that really President Obama said the exact same thing of. So it's going to be interesting to see if he pull it off. My instinct, though, does say that I think he can.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that also we have to realize is a lot of plans that are being funded with Warren and Sanders, I got no problem with raising taxes for the rich, but the problem that I got with these billionaire wealth taxes is these guys got a lot of money, and the problem I'm a little bit worried about here is not the sense of putting the taxes on them, because I don't care about what they think about it, but they're going to definitely find loopholes to not pay the taxes. Like, I hope you realize that, right? They could also just get up and move or make their residency in a different country. Like, look at what cruise ships do. Okay, cruise ships. Okay, for example, Disney cruise ships. They dock at Miami. That's their main port, but they register their ships in the Bahamas. You want to know why? because the Bahamas have a low minimum. Actually, they don't even have a minimum wage. Excuse me, they don't have a minimum wage. Or at least they haven't had it for a while. They might have one now, but it's a lower minimum wage than the U.S. The other thing about registering in the Bahamas or in many of those Caribbean countries for that matter, there is no okay, I'm trying to get the word here, but all right, I'll just get a different word. There is no maximum amount of time allocated, like put into law, that a worker can work. So, for example, on Disney Cruise Lines, there has been multiple reports of workers working 18 to 20-hour days, which, yes, might sound shocking, but it's happened before.
It's technically legal because of like the Bahama regulations, is what you're saying?
Yes. And the same thing has occurred with other cruise lines who have registered in other countries. The fact of the matter is, what I'm trying to get at here is,
like, is there ways people can exploit this? Yeah, I think there's
they can
definitely
exploit these taxes.
I definitely agree with you
easily. And that's the problem I have with Bernie Sanders. If that happens, you know who's going to be paying for all these crappy? Well, I'm going to be honest with you here. A lot of these programs are sounding really good, but the fact of the matter is, if you can't pay for them, they're not going to be so good. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of these billionaires are just going to get off their butts and move or register themselves, quote unquote, register themselves in a different country.
It's like, why are they so nervous about? Like, if something they can all easily avoid, like, why are they so panicked against Bernie Sanders?
Because big government, in their opinion, and partially I can agree with them here on this, government doesn't run everything perfectly. Neither do corporations, for that matter, as we have been, as we have seen for a while. But government doesn't run every single thing perfectly, especially when you have a big country like America. I mean, look, if you want to look at all the countries that Bernie sources for a lot of his things are small European countries that have maybe 40 million people living there, probably less than 40 million people living there. So the only big country that he is sourcing is Canada, which, by the way, from doing a lot of research on their single-payer healthcare system, they have a lot of problems in Canada with their single healthcare system. To name a few, there's a long wait line for many of them. The other problem that they seem to be having in their country is regarding the fact that, because of the fact there's a long wait line, people are actually starting to just pay out of pocket to basically, quote unquote, expedite the wait line. So it seems like that when you look at Canada, which is the only country we can really compare to the U.S., because you can't compare the U.S. to a country like Denmark or to a country like Norway, where they don't have.
Maybe the UK?
UK, you could sort of, but how many people live in the UK? I mean,
I don't know, probably more than
80
Canada.
million, maybe. I mean, the UK, I will say, though, this is what I will say about the UK, and I do believe this. I do believe that the government should have the responsibility of protecting the environment, and I do like the fact that the UK has this new point system that they put in place where car manufacturers have to make all their cars. Okay, so they all have to add up to a certain amount of emissions per mile. That emission score is 95 grams of CO2 emitted per mile out of all their cars. So they have 18 cars on a lineup. All the cars don't have to be 95 grams, but the average of the entire company has to be at 95 grams or lower of CO2 per mile. That is a good approach to, first off, protecting our environment, number one. But also, it really is actually not that way, because you're still letting people have the choice to buy that car that they don't want to have. That is not the best thing for the environment. But you also have a lot more choice in the market, because the problem that we have right now in the U.S. is we don't really have a lot of choice in the sense of electric, or in the sense of, for people who like hybrids. I mean, I think hybrids are a little stupid, but for people who like hybrids, you can go have fun with your little hybrid. We really have a lot of options there. And so I think that the UK has done good there. We're talking about the UK, and Canada has also done a pretty good job on the environment. I can definitely agree that we do need more government intervention on protecting the environment. I think that, it's proven to work. The EPA is a perfect example of something that people, everyone is always saying, oh, I'm against socialism with Bernie. But, if you think about the highway system is socialist, the EPA, is technically a socialist, because the fact of the matter is we pay for it. And it is a public thing that is actually used by every single person throughout their day. You may say, well, how? Well, when you look at weather monitoring stations and air quality, this and that, that helps everybody. But I think that when we look at like these billionaires saying, "Oh, Bernie's not good because of socialism and this and that and communism," they always like pull all these like names out of their
Yeah.
back pocket, which is a little bit funny to be quite frank with you. But I think that I don't care what the billionaires think. The only problem I have is if Bernie gets into office and a lot of billionaires then start to flee. I just wonder how he's going to pay for they have never asked that question at the debate. I think it's a really good question to ask because look, I mean that could actually happen. Like I think that that's a good question to ask. And to be honest, I really want to hear what he has to say because there's really only two answers. Number one is I'm going to raise taxes on the upper middle class, the middle class, or people who make not even upper middle class, actually a little bit higher than upper middle class. So like upper class
Like the
people,
top
or
9%, like
yeah,
top 10%.
like if you've seen tax people who have a family income over 300,000 or 400,000 $1,000 a year. And I think that that's really something that they should ask because at least those type of people, I would not really predict they would leave. But what I do see happening here is if Bernie gets elected, I definitely do see a big, massive influx of people leaving blue states like New York and California that have ridiculously high taxes for states that are with no income tax in order to, well, first off, quote unquote, save money because of the higher federal taxes. But I think that that's probably one thing that we're going to see as well. But to be honest with you, I think that that should be a good question that Bernie should get asked is what he's going to do if a lot of billionaires leave and there's a clear sign that there isn't enough revenue to be made.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think I think it's unlikely. It's like I get where that could possibly be happening, but that kind of response of billionaires leaving on masse, like they're not going to take their companies out of the United States. But they
No, I
like
don't mean the
Amazon's
company.
not.
I just mean, no. I don't mean them. I mean like
You
Jeff
mean that their
Bezos and
personal residences?
changing his citizenship to Canadian or something like that. Or that
I
Canadian, because
mean, I
Canadian
feel like
has a
that's.
high.
I don't know. I could be, but eating my words on this, but I don't really see that happening.
Well, many billionaires have said that, right? They've gone on CNBC, they've mentioned it.
Maybe.
Not Jeff Bezos per se, but there are other financial guys who I can't remember their names perfectly. They were mentioning that they would probably do that. But I mean, that's not all of them. Yes, that's true. But I wouldn't be shocked to see if someone like Mark Zuckerberg would do that because Zuckerberg doesn't even support Sanders. He supports Buttigieg of all people.
Oh, really?
Which, yeah, well, because of the fact they went to Harvard together, but something a little fishy going on there, to be quite frank. Because I think that Buttigieg got elected, which he wouldn't get elected. But if he were, I highly would never doubt within a million years that Zuckerberg would get some sort of administrative job.
As in what?
I could see Zuckerberg getting FCC chair.
Oh wow, that'd be interesting.
And with Buttigieg, definitely.
All right, so yeah, let's get to this. Let's get to this delegate count now. As it stands, Bernie Sanders is 12 delegates ahead with 53 delegates to 41 delegates that Joe Biden has. Buttigieg now has 26, where Warren and Klobuchar have 8 and 7. That's how that works. I do want to get to this clip of on CNN from Elizabeth Warren's campaign.
And when you talk to her supporters, they say, look, the fight isn't over. In fact, one person close to the campaign I talked to in just the last few hours said that tonight is about blunting the momentum for Bernie Sanders. That is what they are paying attention to.
Yeah, so pretty much what it says is, if you couldn't hear that, it was a little kind of quiet volume there. But what they were saying is that they want to blunt Bernie Sanders' momentum. That is the goal of blunting Bernie Sanders' momentum. I really this move to me makes no sense for someone like Elizabeth Warren, who purports to completely respect Bernie, is now focused on taking Bernie out and coming into the face seemingly has pretty similar policy positions to Bernie, like has the same general belief system as Bernie Sanders, and now is focused on blunting Bernie Sanders when it looks like he may have the best shot to take the nomination. Like, what is going on here? What I just don't get who is behind this.
With Warren per se.